Hello, thanks for joining me today. My name is Mike Getchis and I'm with Zenkraft. I'm going to run through for you some of the functionality of our Salesforce.com native parcel shipping integration. Everything I show you will be in terms of FedEx today, but please know we do support FedEx, UPS, US Postal Service, DHL, Purolator, and about 30 other carriers. From the beginning here, we have a series of objects, and the one that's maybe central to our application would be the Shipments Record. This is where we store all of the information about the shipments. We can create data a few different ways. I'll start by showing you what the data looks like, and then we'll talk a little bit about how we can either create the data inside of Salesforce against your shipping account, or get it from somewhere else, maybe an ERP that's outside of Salesforce, or from a batch upload or API connection. So this is a list of all of the shipments that have been created in this org. In this case, they're all FedEx. And if we jump into each one of these records, we can then see a complete history of the shipment. So from the top, we're on shipment number 882. If we move down to the header, we can see there's a tracking number returned, the date it was shipped, and all of the information about this particular shipment is here. The shipment state section will update as frequently as every hour. So this would be the status description, things like out for delivery, picked up by FedEx, and of course delivered would be returned right into your Salesforce org. This can then be used to trigger workflow, maybe reports, or schedule follow-up after a package has been delivered. We've even built a delivered checkbox so that can trigger a workflow process or maybe update the order that's related to this shipment as delivered. We of course return the actual delivery date, and you can see the last time that the status was updated. Moving along here, a lot of this information can be used for reporting. So things like the actual delivery, the estimated delivery date can be compared to the actual delivery date to see if the carrier met their service level agreement. We can see the transit time and the delivery day of the week. This might be important if you want to anticipate inbound shipments, or maybe let the customer know that the date that their shipment can be sent. We can also send workflow emails that are branded off of this object when a shipment is created, or when the status description has hit a certain criteria. So for instance, if there's a status exception code that comes back, that's a problem with this shipment, we can send an email notification, trigger a workflow, or schedule some sort of follow-up. We have the cost information here. This looks a little bit different based on the carrier. This is the FedEx information. So we have the base charges, the discounts, which would include your negotiated rate, total surcharges, taxes, and then the total net charge. This should be what appears on your FedEx invoice. And we also include fuel surcharges and insurance as well. We can create return shipments. This might be handy if you have a case process where you need to have a label email to the customer for them to return something to you, or maybe a field service rep return a part to a warehouse. We can not only create and print labels, but we can also create and email them. Here's a service type, where it was sent from or returned to in the case of a return shipment. The recipient address, this can come from anywhere in Salesforce, and that goes for the sender information as well. We can populate address data really from anywhere inside of the Salesforce platform. The freight, we do support FedEx Air Freight. That is an option available. The billing information, you can see which account was used to pay for the shipment. So there's the payer account number, in this case, a FedEx account. We do support third-party billing, and we can include some reference fields on the labels. We do support international shipping, so we can create the commercial invoice, pro forma invoice, NAFTA certificate of origin, or if you need to upload some other trade documents specific to your particular shipment, maybe a lithium battery documentation, we can do that as well. We can send email notifications throughout the shipping process. So when the label is created, if there's a status exception, and then finally upon delivery, you can have the carrier send notifications. So again, in this case, FedEx, or you can have your own branded emails sent out of Salesforce. And that's as simple as creating an email template and then a workflow rule to send it whenever certain criteria are met. We also have a checkpoints feature. So a checkpoint, if you can think of it as sort of a tracking of the status description field. So each time the status description is updated, it'll return that information, create another entry here. If we jump into this, this is normally created through an API call. You can see all of the fields that are returned. And you might have several of these before the package is actually delivered. This may be important if you have concerns over chain of custody. For instance, our healthcare and life science customers are concerned with this for FDA reporting, or if there's dangerous or hazardous materials being transported. You can see the entire history of the shipment. We do support special services, things like Saturday delivery, signature required. We also return the signature verification into Salesforce. So after it's been delivered, you'll see an attachment with the confirmation of the receipt of the package, including the signature image of the individual that signed for it, their name, as well as a date and time that they signed for it. We also save the label as an attachment, so we can return the label if necessary into Salesforce. You can see this is on a PDF 8.5 by 11 sheet. We also support Zebra thermal printers. This is a really handy method of emailing a label to a customer because they can print it on their standard office printer and put it on the box and return something back to you. So now I'm going to show you one of the ways we can create new shipment records. So of course we can create these really in three ways. We can do it from a managed visual force page. We can do it from process builders or Apex. We can actually write some Apex code to specifically address the need. Most of our customers don't have the need to go into do any development in order to address their use case. We're a very clicks not code company, and we're constantly expanding on that. One of the recent additions is our set of invocable methods. So when a certain field criteria are met, we can create a label, we can return a quote, what would it cost to ship, and we can of course track that as well. So just quickly, I'll show you what it's like to create a label. So in this case, this is the case object. This might be used for a customer service issue, and in our customer's case, it's usually going to involve sending a return label so they can recover that item and have the tracking visibility throughout that process. So on a case, we'll have a contact or perhaps an account. In this case, we have a related order where they ordered a cutting tool and they need to order a replacement. So in this example, the customer needs to send it in with a FedEx label. So there's two ways we can do that. We can automatically create it, so this process can run when certain criteria are met. It doesn't make for a great demo though, so I'm going to show you our visual force page at this stage, and I'll go back and show you that auto create process. So this is a page that's familiar to anyone who has shipped something with FedEx. I'll quickly run through it. It typically answers questions that might be specific to your use case. From the top here, we have a preference, and now a preference in our terms is where we store your account information for FedEx. So we can store thousands of different accounts, and we can choose them programmatically. If you're looking for a global solution, perhaps you have carrier accounts on different continents or in different countries, we can choose the correct one and bill to it based on some criteria. For instance, the country where it's being sent from or sent to. So we can automate that process. We can create outbound and return shipments. In this case, we'll do a return shipment. As I mentioned, we support a number of different label image types. The Zebra and Eltron thermal printers are also supported. I'll do another PDF for this example. We can schedule pickups or use an already scheduled pickup at your location. This can be defaulted as well. So if there's some criteria that would indicate that you might drop it off versus use the pickup, we can do that. The return to address in this case, or send from if it were an outbound shipment, this can come from anywhere. This is a global default in this case. I've included my user details here. So this is my email and phone number. We can really map this from anywhere and apply logic to these fields as well. And that goes for the return from address or the send to address in the event of an outbound shipment. We do support address validation. So you can see here that this will return an indication that this is a residential, but also if it's really far off, it will return suggestions. The service type, packaging type, and weight and dimensions. There's a few ways we can do this. In this case, we've mapped it so we have an SLA based on the customer that was on that case. So they will be receiving ground service. Your packaging, we do support the the carrier packaging types as well, the envelopes and boxes are available. And we can map those fields. We can also have the user choose them, as I just did. We can also add weight and dimensions. In this case, we've mapped those values based on the weight and dimensions of the cable cutting tool that they're returning. But we can manually update these. We also have a scale integration, so we can pull this weight from a scale. So maybe if you were shipping from a warehouse, we can integrate with those peripheral devices. And last, we can simply add a commonly shipped package. These would be maintained locally to your shipping profile. Moving along, we also can bill to third-party accounts. So in this case, if one of your customers were to give you their FedEx account, or maybe a partner were to give you their FedEx account, we could bill their account. We can still create labels, and all of your workflow processes would flow. You just don't pay for the label, and you also can't see their negotiated rates with the carrier. For reference values, there's usually several of these. In this case, because we're doing a return shipment, we have an RMA number field, which is additional. FedEx will encode this into a barcode, so you can use that for receiving the item. Once it comes back, you can scan this and maybe link it to the case in Salesforce. We have some other fields here. These can be any 35-character alphanumeric fields, so PO numbers, invoice numbers, product numbers, really anything that's inside of Salesforce can be mapped here. These email notifications, these can be sent when the label's created. Again, I think I covered this on the data page. When the label's created, if there's a problem with the shipment, and then again when it's delivered. You can customize these email messages from the carriers. You get about a tweet's worth of characters to include in that email notification. Again, these come from the carrier, but we can send them from out of Salesforce using your own branded email. The shipment note section is really just a place to note anything about the particular shipment here. So it's sort of a free text area. You can note something as well. Special services, these are all available. This is a dynamic section, so based on the address, the send from address, even the account, and that goes for this page overall. There's a lot of things happening, so the user cannot choose a service type that's unavailable. So you don't get to the point of creating a label, and it turns out that ground service, for instance, or overnight service isn't available to and from your addresses. So one more thing I'd like to show you before we create this label is the ability to calculate the rate. So because we have everything filled out at this point, we could return the label, or we can request a pricing matrix. So this will show you all of the service types that are available to and from these addresses and for this account. And we can see things like the estimated delivery date, the transit time, if it's a number of days, the delivery day of the week, the charges, and we can hide or show the negotiated rates in this case. Discounts would be where you note whether or not you're receiving your negotiated rate or in a test environment here, so they're all zeros. And maybe you need to make a decision on expected delivery date or budget, and we can do that here. And then finally, we can create this label. If this was a label that we wanted to print, and we can default that auto print checkbox to print the label after it comes back. When I hit create label, the next screen after it loads, the label will print. Again, that can be your thermal printer or really any other laser printer that you have connected to the machine. So we've sort of come full circle here. We're back to the shipment record. You can see all of the fields that I just ran you through. We can email the label. So this is a quick way to send an email template. We can, of course, delete this record. We can update the status description. So again, this will be updated based on a Schedule Apex job every hour. But if you need to just request the status description update for this particular shipment, you can do that. We can modify or cancel the shipment, create a printable summary of this page, and print the labels and documents again if they haven't printed already. Just a note on our printing integration, it can not only print to your thermal printer, it can also send a commercial invoice to your laser printer from the same process. So you can, from one request, print labels and documents. If this was an international shipment, it would print to a laser printer as well as a thermal printer. There's a few other ways we can create data. Of course, we can create shipments in bulk. So what we have here is a view of the orders object. This can really be any object. That goes for all of these demonstrations. We can create shipping data against any object in Salesforce on any one of the clouds or maybe part of another Salesforce.com application. What we have here is the ability to create shipments in bulk. So We can choose all or some of these orders, and we've added a button here where when we click Create Shipments, it's going to load a bulk shipping page. Now this page can look like whatever you'd like it to. So we can show multiple carriers. We can allow you to default the service type across all of the shipments from a master field here. But what happens when we click Create Shipments, it's going to fulfill that shipment record, a new shipment record against each one of these orders in bulk, and then return the labels to Salesforce. We can, of course, email them after they come back, or we can print them. It's really up to you. This is a common use case for perhaps sending out marketing materials where you'd like to know when that marketing collateral has arrived to time your follow-up, for bulk processing orders, or maybe sending out samples. So those are some of the common use cases of our bulk shipping integration. And that's sort of it for the creating of the data. We can, as I mentioned, do what we call a one-click label creation. I'll show you that quickly. But basically, you don't have to stop on that shipping page. So in this case, I have it set up for auto create. So when I click New FedEx Shipment, you'll see it won't stop on that shipping record because we have all of the required information. And that this has created a label. It can email it. I could have printed it as well. So thank you so much for your time. If you have any more questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Take care.